Hello everybody and welcome back to the Athlete Podcast. Today I am joined by Suzie Liverseidge. Is that the right way of saying it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And you are a London Mavericks netball player.
Yeah.
Also England under-19, under-17, under-15 squad too.
Yeah, 17s, 19s, 21s.
Okay. It's almost there.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be talking a little bit about netball, talking about like the England pipeline, a little bit about what training day to day is like as a professional netballer. So we'll start off with how you got into netball. I assume it was probably in school.
Yeah, I just started playing in primary school. I feel like most girls do. When I was in about year 5, it wasn't that serious at that point. We mostly played like high five netball.
And what's that? Sorry.
It's just a simplified version of the game where you only have 5 players on the court, and you kind of rotate around positions, so you get a go at everything.
I see.
And we had boys playing in our team as well, so yeah, it was more like kind of fun tournaments.
Yeah. And then from there, where does it get serious? Like what age are we looking at?
I think I joined a club when I was in year 6. Went to secondary school. Netball was taken a bit more seriously there. I think I did my first county trials when I was like under 13, so that was the first time when I kind of got onto that performance pathway. When I was that age, it's a bit different to how it runs now. Now it's more franchise based, but we kind of went through county, regional, and then you'd go to like national selection. So I think as soon as I got onto that pathway, I was kind of always had my eyes on like the next level and just what I needed to do to get to that bit, because I'm quite competitive, so that's kind of just how it worked.
And you always sort of knew what the next step was then? That's the lesson of it, right?
I think you always saw like girls slightly older than you moving up, so
I
was just kind of chasing that to get into the next bit.
No, it makes sense because, I mean, a lot of the academy, like you think football, it goes from like, you know, you play in primary school, you might play in secondary school, and then it's like the under whatever age group until you get into the senior squad, right? What is the process is like? How's your training at that age? Is it like, you know, are you every day in the gym, or are you not even starting the gym, just playing netball? What's it like?
I think I was introduced to proper like gym programs when I was maybe about 15. Before that we used to do like bodyweight stuff, and we started doing conditioning when we got into the county program, so like shuttles and intervals training, and at that point I was also doing athletics, so I'd kind of train down at my local athletics hub, which kept my fitness quite high as well.
So you were in like the medaling athletics disciplines, right?
Middle distance, so like 800 meters.
So that must have kept you in shape at least.
Yeah, they definitely complement each other, and even now, like in the off season, I kind of go back to that sort of like interval training to keep myself fit. So yeah.
How this is a bit off the beaten track at least. What distance do you think you run in a regular match now then?
I think some research has said that mid-court players run about 7 to 10 kilometres in an hour.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's quite a lot then.
Yeah, and it's also a lot more tiring than just running 7 kilometres because you change direction so much.
Oh, yeah, I bet. And then there's the time that you've got on the ball too. You know, you're passing. I don't know if you shoot. I assume not, because you mentioned earlier that the GA is typically the one that's shooting.
Yeah.
This is like the passing. I don't know, do you tackle? It's like non-contact, right? Or is it mainly interceptions that you have to make?
It's not completely non-contact. I think they call it like semi-contact now. But yeah, once you've got the ball, you can't make contact with it, so you have to be a metre away. But off the ball, there is quite a lot of physicality that goes on.
Okay. So in terms of when you're like moving up and things like that, what was the game like? Was it quite aggressive? Was it quite intense each match that you were playing, or you know, what was the competition like at that point?
Yeah, it was intense. I feel like now junior netball is probably even more competitive than it was when I was that age, and all the pathway now runs through the franchises. So, for example, London Mavericks starts from under 11s now, whereas when I was younger you wouldn't join a franchise until you were like 15, 16 into the under 17s. So yeah, it's definitely a lot more competitive, a lot earlier nowadays. But yeah, it was competitive. Our regional games were competitive, and then kind of each year of your junior netball, you'd be trying to make the top 2 in your region to make it to national finals, and that was always kind of like a highlight of the year and really competitive.
Do you think that getting younger people into these franchises now is more beneficial for at least England's side of netball or Great Britain's netball, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think it's just a different structure.
Yeah.
It's nice to kind of have a big pathway in the club, because as like a Super League player for London Mavericks, you kind of have the whole pathway of those girls that you can kind of interact with and would look up to you. So I think that kind of pathway of making it to the senior squad is maybe a bit clearer because they're in the club from such a young age.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just
linear.
different to doing like the regional route. So.
Okay. And so, as soon as you sort of turn like 19 and whatnot, and you start going off to university, what are the sort of aims and objectives that you have at that point? Obviously, you went to Loughborough, renowned for its just much more advanced, right?
Yeah, I think the university is like a really good opportunity to kind of get stuck into your training. For me, when I was growing up, my parents were driving me like a couple of hours to training, so suddenly when I went to Loughborough and everything's just on your doorstep,
exactly,
it was a really cool opportunity to just kind of leverage my training in the gym, on the court.
But then the onus falls down onto you to balance everything, right? You've got your studies, training, competing, and then social, the social aspect of being at university and meeting so many different people. How does that go down, really? What do you prioritise?
Yeah, I definitely prioritise different things at different times, like in exam season I'd be kind of getting more stuck into my work, whereas at other times netball took priority. But Loughborough's really great at helping you balance. They obviously have so many elite sports people there that university was quite flexible, and particularly since COVID hit, like you could do a lot of things online, so I might have missed lectures for training, but then I'd just make sure I caught up in them. And when you turn to university, like your time's just like able to split it up how you want, so it can be quite flexible.
Okay, well that helps a lot, doesn't it? And especially because, do you get like a lot of funding for your training, your nutrition and whatnot when you're in university there, or is it all on you as well? You have to add a job into that mix of studies, training, competing.
I mean, I was quite lucky. I didn't really have a job while I was at university. I was really lucky to get a Super League contract the first year that I arrived at Loughborough, and the support of Loughborough is incredible for performance athletes in the Super League squad and also just in the university first team in terms of like S&C, nutrition. You basically have everything you could need, so yeah. And
then, but was it before your debut? You sustained a stress fracture?
Yeah, so in my first year of university, that was 2019, 2020.
Yeah. So
the season started in February and I got a stress fracture in that January. So I missed the first couple of games, but that was the year that COVID hit. So the Super League didn't actually finish that year. It literally played, I think, 3 rounds and then was postponed. I'd started the University League and training with the Super League squad, and then I got injured, and then unfortunately we were all sent home, so that kind of then gave me the rest of that year to rehab and get myself fit and strong, ready for the next year, which was when I debuted the next February.
Yeah, I bet in that moment, like at the time, you were thinking, this is terrible, I've not got access to all these facilities, I've not got this, I've not got that to help deal with this. It's not a small thing, a stress fracture at least. It's, you could be out for at least 3 months doing those silly rehab exercises, like lifting your leg and just putting your body weight on it. So do you think that looking back on it in hindsight, there was sort of the silver lining of that everything had stopped, you had the time, you almost graced the time?
The positive was definitely to not feel like I was missing out. It's always tough when you're injured to kind of watch your team play and really want to be involved, so it definitely gave me the time to properly rehab it. But then, as you say, there came the difficulties of like not having all that gym equipment, and like I couldn't run on it, I couldn't weight bear, so like in Loughborough I was on the ski erg and like all these kind of specialist equipment, and then suddenly I was at home in my garage with very limited resources. But it definitely taught me some mental resilience and kind of the process to get back.
So who helped you while you were at home?
I would have like Zoom calls with the S&C coaches and the physios, and they would set me a program, but at the same time it was very much just up to me to kind of assess like how I was doing and what stages I was at. I was supposed to kind of get it scanned regularly, but then we couldn't do any of that, so it was very much based off feeling, and it definitely took longer than it probably would have otherwise, but with stress fractures you have to be really careful, so that was probably a good thing.
So did you have to sort of, during this time where everyone was off, did you like adjust any nutrition or anything like that?
Yeah, I had done a few blood tests before COVID hit, so we looked at any deficiencies. So I think I started taking some iron and vitamin C, but I didn't necessarily adjust my diet too significantly, just focusing on trying to get lots of good fuel in, to just help me recover as best as I could.
What's the you said you started taking iron tablets and things like that. What's the general view of supplements and things like that in sports? Are they more useful than not, or do you think more athletes use them now? Or
I think it's very much on an individual basis. I think you can get most the kind of nutrition you need from your diet, but if you are deficient, then obviously supplements can be a good way to
There's
kind of
nothing you can do about that. Is there? And so in terms of day-to-day life now, as it has been for at least the last 4 years now in the Super League, you're playing as a professional, you're training almost every single day. What does a typical week look like for you?
Yeah, so this year's quite a big change for me compared to previous years when I've been at university, and also the changes in the Super League that are happening this year. So previously, most Super League training's been either early mornings or late evenings, which I would be fitting around university. But this year, as we enter NSL 2.0, where the league's trying to enter its professional era, I've moved to London Mavericks, and there we're really training during the day now, which is really cool to kind of prioritise training and invest a lot more time into it. So a typical week for me at the moment, on a Monday and a Thursday, I'm kind of in the club for the day. So we have video analysis, a court session and a gym session and lunch, and then we'll leave about 3 p.m. So they're kind of 2 big training days. We'll train on a Tuesday evening on court with our next gen squad to kind of get big numbers in the session. And then we get a recovery day on a Wednesday, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It varies week to week. We normally do a court session on a Saturday, obviously pre-season games when they come. And then amongst that all, I make sure I get in 2 to 3 weight sessions and a couple of conditioning sessions on top to keep myself fit.
It's a lot. It's a lot, in fact. So,
yeah, it is a lot, but I feel like this year is actually almost kind of, I've got the balance a bit better. Previously I'd be doing kind of all of that and then also playing university netball and maybe prem netball as well on a Sunday. So and your studies, maybe any exams that you had and things like that mixed in too. It's very difficult. How has sort of your outlook changed on it now that you're almost like a full-time athlete? Are you looking more sort of hopeful into the future for what the team can build? Because from what I hear from you, it's a lot of teams are moving into this structure where now everybody's training almost all day, every single day, at more sociable times at least. And it's not as much of a fit it around your actual life. It's become your life now. Yeah, training's definitely become more of a priority in my day, and I'm not kind of thinking all about university and then suddenly switching into netball mode. Which I think is only going to improve players' performances and the league in general. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you said yourself it's going to get bigger.
Yeah, hopefully.
Bigger arenas, more players, and they shrunk it though.
Yeah, the number of teams has decreased. So I was playing at 7 Stars last year, which doesn't exist anymore as a franchise. Okay. Less teams, but playing in bigger arenas. We've got 2 home games at Wembley Arena this year, which will be great. Yeah. And then we're also playing at the Brighton Centre, which is great because there's not many teams now in the south. So hopefully some of the southern netball fans can get down to that game. And then our other games are at Hertfordshire Sports Village and in Essex.
Okay. What do you think the benefit of splitting the 2 leagues in half would bring for, maybe people that are rising up the ranks or people that are new to netball? In the future, how will it benefit the younger players?
I think having netball as a career opportunity as a young player at the moment is really exciting. When I was their age, the league wasn't in the sort of place that it is now. So to kind of see where they could go is really cool. I think the Next Gen League is really exciting as well. It's kind of that step up from the NPL leagues they used to have, and the way it's mirroring the Super League, I think will be a really good opportunity for those young athletes. I know at London Mavericks we've got some of our under-19s in that squad, so just great opportunities for them to be playing against Super League players.
So the future's looking up for some of the future stars, right?
Yeah, hopefully.
It's all. I mean, they'll be subject to almost like a completely different timeline and like intensity to what you dealt with, where you were sort of coming up from, rising through the ranks, things like that, won't they?
Yeah, and I think just women's sport in general is just like a different picture to how it used to be, which is just so exciting. And
no, absolutely. I mean, they just especially like women's football. Like it's obviously it was always going to be big because they have the advantage of being tied to the major teams and the major branding of the this is the Women's World Cup, this is the World Cup, this is the Women's Euros, this is the Euros. It's the biggest sport in Britain. But the numbers that they're pulling, just like completely packing out Wembley last year, or was it this year? It could have been this year, but like completely packing out Wembley is just unheard of. It's crazy. But I think there's been more eyes on like women's basketball as well, and a lot of the different like disciplines, like the women competing in the Olympics. One of our athletes, Jodie Grunow, who's a female Paralympian, she competed and she's had so much news coverage around like just surrounding her medals and her medaling for Britain. It's been wild recently. So I think it's coming into like a new era, if you will. Women's sport is being pushed on a lot of people. A lot of people are much more aware of it.
Yeah.
So what's your opinion on like the participation in netball? Because obviously it's like a more female dominated sport historically. What would be, what would it look like if a man or a boy were to pick it up and join a franchise? What would their pathway look like?
Yeah, the men's game's definitely growing. I know that there's kind of clubs popping up all over the place, and most of those men's clubs have like men's team and mixed teams.
Yeah.
I'm not sure in terms of like a league going on, but they definitely play each other kind of through the year, and then there's a big like nationals event in the summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough then. I mean, it's one of those really. Everyone wants to be a part of every single sport, and with all of these much more niche sports growing in popularity recently, which I think is mostly down to social media. You can sort of just get into anything if it's, as long as you see the videos or see the posts and whatnot, you could realistically support anybody from anyone around the world, couldn't you? But in terms of like day to day, I'll talk a little bit about nutrition now. What does like a day to day meal schedule look for you generally? What are you eating?
Okay, a typical day on my plate. I always have porridge for breakfast.
Nice.
Big bowl of porridge and a coffee.
Yeah.
And then for lunch I might have like some sourdough with avocado and poached eggs.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And then dinner I mix it up, but I'd say my speciality is like a salmon teriyaki rice bowl. Yeah.
That's fantastic with some spring onions and whatnot.
Yeah, bit of tender stem broccoli. Yeah.
Oh, that is a shout. To be fair, I think I've tried that once.
Once.
Yeah. It was like a recipe on TikTok that I saw, and it was like spur of the moment. I was like, hell yeah, I'm going to Sainsbury's. Let's get some salmon in.
Yeah. You need to get the sushi rice.
The sticky stuff.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
In a rice cooker, game changer.
I don't have a rice cooker, but I've heard good things about them. You leave it for quite a while, right? It takes like...
I think it takes like 25 minutes maybe, but you can just like turn it on and just leave it to do its thing.
Almost like an air fryer.
Yeah. Me and my flatmate, who's also a netballer, we've just bought an air fryer as well, so...
Is that... What is there any difference in it, or is it just mainly like the energy that it uses while it's cooking something?
I think it's a bit quicker. It makes your salmon nice and crispy on the outside as well, which I feel like the oven doesn't really do.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm still yet to really kind of experiment.
You got to dig into it.
Yeah.
Is it like a ninja?
Oh, I'm not sure. Amelia was in charge of the purchasing. I
see. Okay. Fair enough. I can't argue with that. So obviously, it's the usual suspects, isn't it? Every single time you ask an athlete what they're eating, it's we're having pasta, we're having salmon, we're having chicken, we're having avocados. It's are you like directed at all by any nutritionists or anything like that?
Yeah, we have a nutritionist that kind of works at the club. Kind of gives you advice. It's less like a kind of structured meal plan in terms of this is what you must eat, but they're good at like advising you on like the sorts of things you could add in, different ideas, different fueling plans. So, yeah.
Okay. Do they get like mad at you over the coffee, or is that just like an accepted thing that everyone drinks coffee?
No, they've never got mad at me. I'm very much a one coffee a day.
Okay.
But yeah, we definitely look at like how it kind of impacts sleep and stuff, because obviously recovery is important. So yeah, I think they'd probably be advising against late coffees in the day, but I think a morning coffee is acceptable.
What's the emphasis that they place on sleep then?
I think just having like a regular sleep routine is really important. Trying to get, for me, I need at least like 8 hours sleep. But yeah, we know that like if you're training hard, you need to be sleeping and recovering.
Can it differ for everyone, or is it 8 hours?
I think it is individual, yeah. I think just based off feel. For me personally, I think it's almost less about the length I sleep, but more about getting into like a regular routine. That's when I kind of feel my best.
Okay. Is that, I see, this is like the part of sports that you just don't see, isn't it? You know, like the discipline. Yeah. And like the rehabilitation, all this stuff. Most people generally just see like the success that someone has, whereas the discipline and all these other like factors, you know, showing up every single day is a form of discipline. The food that you eat and just sticking to that diet is a form of discipline. Yeah. I think that's one of the most important lessons that you can sort of learn from sport.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like the hard work is kind of like the obvious bit, but actually like if you're not doing all the other things alongside and like having the time for your body to recover, then like you just won't be performing at your best. So yeah, sleep, nutrition, rest is all really important to actually be performing at your best.
Almost as important as being in the gym.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So in terms of the way that, you know, if you were to take into account how you've seen the pipeline change over the years and things like that, how would you recommend that someone that was looking at getting into netball, at least as an adult right now, shall we say, we'll come back to the younger people, but as an adult, someone who just wanted to pick it up as a hobby, what would you say is the starting point for them?
I think just getting down to your local club. England Netball do a kind of scheme called Back to Netball, which is really cool for like people that maybe haven't played for a lot of years that kind of want to get back in and like learn the rules and stuff. Yeah. For maybe slightly less active people, there's walking netball, which I know is like a great social sport.
What's that?
It's like netball, but like you can't run, so it's slightly slower pace. Okay. Yeah, and then there's all sorts of like social leagues for adults, which are just great fun. Like summer evenings, like playing netball with your friends. Yeah, I think it's a great way to kind of get involved.
And then for like school age people, typically primary schools are always running a netball club, right?
Yeah, I think primary schools, secondary schools, it's never really too late to start. You can just get down to your local club, get involved, and then if you want to take it further, look at getting into one of the like franchise pathways. Okay.
And then once you get into that, you're sort of like on the path then.
Yeah, like I know for London Mavericks there's kind of like a pathway up through the age groups, so once you kind of get in, you can see the progression up to the senior squad.
And then as you get as you got older, at least you've achieved some fantastic things. You were the 2021 and 2023 Super League champion. Yeah. Which is, what's it like to run a gauntlet like that, the entire league, and then, you know, win it? How's the mentality?
It's really special. The way that the league works, it's like you play everybody twice, and then the top four go into a final series. So then it's almost like anything can happen. So
anyone from the top four can take it.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So it's actually quite often not the winner of the league. That then actually goes on to win the title. So yeah.
That is really interesting. I've never heard of anything like that, to be fair. Obviously, we have the playoffs and stuff in the football, but that's like, it doesn't decide the winner. The winner is the winner before then. That's wild. Yeah. So how was that then? What, you know, how are you preparing for this final?
It's a bit different now because now the semi-finals happen one week and then the finals the next week. And this year they're actually doing a completely different thing where there's like an elimination final, so it will extend the final series. But on our first title, it was back-to-back, so you literally played the semi-final on the Saturday and the final on the Sunday. So it was quick turnaround, like video analysis on that game, focusing on whoever won the other semi-final. And then just like recovery, ready to go again the next day. So it was a bit of a whirlwind, and that was the first title Loughborough had ever won. So it was a pretty cool moment for the club.
That is a lot.
Yeah.
Just day after day. That is a lot. So what does it take then? You know, how can one person on the team's bad mindset affect, you know, the overall picture and how everyone else is performing?
I'm not sure I've ever really experienced like a bad mindset, but definitely being like a really cohesive team, and like that year particularly was post-COVID, so I think we'd had such a long pre-season that like the squad was really close-knit. I think that's the sort of environment you want to be on the final, kind of knowing your teammates got your back.
Yeah, exactly. Almost like you're a big family, really.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be when you're spending almost every single day.
Yeah, and that year, like, we weren't really going home because everyone was in isolation. We'd be, like, in a hotel room, and almost, like, the team that you were training with were the only people in your bubble, so, like...
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely spent a lot of time together.
Forced together.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, not just that, but you're also the 2-time Bucks champion. And that's... You mentioned earlier that Loughborough is so far ahead of the rest of the competition, really, in terms of the facilities that they have, and obviously when you've got better facilities you attract better talent, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't say they're like miles ahead, but they definitely have a really strong university program. But before those 2 years, Loughborough hadn't won the title in quite a lot of years, so there definitely are a few other universities that are really challenging. But yeah, Loughborough's seen some great success in the kind of university leagues recently. Yeah, and is attracting really good netballers year on year. And
so you were the Bucks champion twice, and this is all while you were also playing for another team too. Yeah. Okay. The kind of university league happens from September to March, and then you'd also be playing kind of in your Super League team as well. Okay, I see. And where were you at then? In terms of which club? Yeah. So I played for Loughborough Lightning for the first 4 years I was at university, although that first year was the COVID year. And then last year I went to Seven Stars. I see. And then it was after that Seven Stars, were they with London Mavericks and then they split? No, Seven Stars was a completely different franchise in Worcester, but they didn't get a franchise to go into the new professional era, so they no longer exist. So kind of everyone in that team had to go and like find another club if they wanted to play. Okay, I see. Yeah. Wow. Well, rest in peace, I guess. I mean, well, it's unlucky, isn't it? I guess. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it was definitely tough because the decisions on the teams going through wasn't performance based. So as a team, we were doing really well last season. Yeah. We made the top 4 for the first time in Seven Stars history, but like that wasn't really the factors that were then deciding which teams went forward. More the viewership and the commercial aspect of it. Yeah. Okay. And then you joined London Mavericks after that? Yeah, in this September. Yeah. Fantastic. And so how have you found life then? Yeah, life at London Mavericks is going really well. It's great to be in kind of a more full-time training programme. Yeah. Yeah, great to have coaches like Tamsin, who's obviously like a specialist in my position, so just learning loads from her. Yeah. Spending lots of time with the team. All the girls are so lovely, so yeah, it's really good to get stuck into some serious training. I might leave this in, but is that Tamsin Greenway? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, she follows us. I thought I recognised the name at least. It's very unique, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, continuing on. Yeah. So in terms of, obviously we've gone over what someone that is a little bit older would how they would join, but how would you go about joining, picking it up at least? What is there any essential equipment, or is it just go find a team and or find a ball? Yeah, I think start. Yeah, it's definitely slightly hard to play netball just on your own at home, but there's all sorts of like training you can do to kind of improve yourself in terms of like fitness, wall work, get a netball and a wall and just throw it against it, practice all your passing, and then if you're a shooter, kind of getting to the post each day will definitely set you apart if you're a young athlete. But in terms of getting involved, just get down to your local club. Okay. Is there anything else that you would say to just anybody looking to get into any sport? Generally, what would be the sort of mantra that they should focus on and almost live by? I think if you're young, you should just get involved in as many sports as possible. You don't want to specialise too early. Yeah. And then mantra, I'd say just enjoy it. Like, don't take it too seriously. I personally find like I definitely play my best netball when I'm enjoying it and having fun. So yeah. Fantastic. Wow, that seems like a perfect point to end on. So thank you very much for coming. No worries. And thank you everybody for joining us, and I hope to see you all soon. Thanks.